Hey guys, how's it going? This is Dr. Chris Collier with Elite Chiropractic and Performance. So this treat yourself video is meant for the glute or the posterior hip. It's just the stretch that I like to do to mobilize this area. It's also a good capsule stretch. There's a lot of ways to stretch the glute or the posterior hip. I don't think there's like one right way. There's just ways I think work better than others. So I'm going to show you my preferred way, and then also spin a little bit of a variation onto it. So what you'll do is you'll get onto the ground, and I have this RX pad here just because this is hard ground. So if I was on carpet or I had like a yoga mat, I probably wouldn't need anything. But the first thing I do first is I set up in a quadruped position. So I'm going to work on stretching my right hip, my right glute. So what I do is I take that right knee and I put it right in the middle to bisect where my hands are at, like that. And that's where I'll put this pad here. So as I get through there, and then what I do is I take my right foot and I swing it towards the left side. So this puts my hip into external rotation. And then from there, I got my left leg, which is just kind of right in the middle between the foot and the knee, just straight back. So my left foot is on the ground. It's helping me stabilize, pushing me forward or backwards. Next step here is I want a straight neutral spine. And what I do is I push my hips back, and it's almost like a hip hinge fashion. So I got this left foot here to help guide the motion. And so as I do this, I start to feel the stretch in the back of the hip here. Once I get a nice stretch, I just sit and hold for about 30 to 40 seconds, and then I come back up. You can also do this in reps and sets. So I might kind of come down, hold for 2, come up, come down, hold for 2, and then come up. And then I like to add a little bit of activation. So it's kind of a glute activation plus a stretch. And so basically, instead of having my foot controlling the motion, I'm picking my foot up off the ground. Now my knee is digging into this pad here and it's activating my hip. So it's going to slowly lower me back. And then to propel myself forward, I push the knee back into the pad here to drive me forward. So it's here, kind of get a little stretch, and then drive me forward. So really awesome way to get loose mobilization of the hip plus some glute activation. So one thing we want to point out though, that can happen, it's common, depends on the individual, but as they start to go back, they start to feel a pinch in the front of the hip. So we don't want that. So if you're feeling that, for one, check your setup. So commonly, whether you got something going on with the hip or you're just extremely tight on one of the hips on both sides or on one side, is the individual will start to like rotate, they'll laterally flex their spine or they'll shift their pelvis in all these different ways. So fix that. Make sure you're going straight back. And it probably helps to have somebody watch you do it. And if that's still not working, I would take the foot that's on the hip that's being stretched, and I would mess with how much rotation you have. So let's say you're in this position and you pinch. I would move the hip or the foot a little bit closer to midline, and then same thing. If no matter what you do, you're still getting the pinch, don't do the stretch then. Obviously, we want you to go get that checked out because you could have some other things going on like hip impingement. And the last thing you need to do is crank away at your hip. There's better things to do to help with that. So this is probably my preferred way to stretch the glutes. And as you can see, you can transition it into an actual exercise as well. So if you have any questions on this, let us know. If not, we'll see you on the next video.